Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you can hear me okay. I am about to be joined live by Eloise Drane, who is the CEO and founder of Family Inceptions, as well as Charlie Watson, who is a mum to a baby via surrogacy. And we're going to be talking about why people choose to travel to the US for egg donation and surrogacy, and hearing more about Charlie's journey in London in October. Can everyone hear me? There seems to be some problems going on with Instagram, so I just want to check. Please let me know if you can hear me. There we go. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, sorry, internet
I
issues, but
know.
hopefully
What's
now.
happening with Instagram today?
I
It's
know.
never like this. But we are here, and I'm inviting Eloise, who is the CEO and founder of Family Inceptions as well. I'd love you to start by introducing yourself and the wonderful story that we're going to be discussing about how you're now a mom thanks to surrogacy in
Yeah.
the US. So please do tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
you.
So I'm Charlie. I am an NHS dietitian and run a lot. I share my running journey and also my surrogacy journey and my kind of life with my son and husband on my Instagram at the Runner Beans. I have a nearly 2-year-old, which I can't believe
Wow.
he's so, yeah. It's gone fast. He's an absolute pickle, but he's amazing. And yeah, married to a long haul pilot, which brings its own fun with some solo parenting. But yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Eloise, oh, there we are. Hello, Eloise.
Kind of.
Nice to see you. How
Oh,
are you?
technology.
I know. Instagram's being a little bit tricky tonight, but thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
Um, Charlie has just introduced herself. It'd be great if you could do the same and tell us a little bit about Family Inceptions, and then we will start talking about surrogacy and egg donation in the US, why it's a popular choice, and your upcoming event.
Sure. So I am the founder of Family Inceptions. I started the agency 16 years ago after my own personal experience as being a 3-time surrogate and a 6-time egg donor.
Wow, that's amazing. And also from a parent of donor sperm conceived children, and of course Charlie, a mother thanks to surrogacy. We are both blessed by those two things, so that's incredible. Just to say that the live is powered by the Family Blueprint, which is a comprehensive one-day event taking place in London on the 12th of October next month. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how this is a time for anyone in the UK to be empowered and learn more about the surrogacy process in the US, as well as egg donation, as well as the nuances involved. I think, Eloise, you may have frozen. I don't know whether she's dropped out. No, she's dropped out. We'll carry on chatting, Charlie, and it should let Eloise back in. There we go. Okay, you're back in. Great. Technology. Okay, so Charlie, I'd love you to tell us a little bit more. Well, tell us all about your personal story, which led you to Family Inceptions and having a baby via surrogacy in the US.
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with MRKH, which I'm not going to try and pronounce the actual kind of non-abbreviated version, but essentially it means that I was born without a working uterus. So I was never going to be able to carry a child. So I always knew that surrogacy, if I wanted to have a biological child, surrogacy was my only option. And at 16, I buried that away and didn't really think about it again until I got married and we sat down and started the kind of process of, well, what does that actually mean? How do we go about that? What are the legal matters? How do we where do we even start? And so it was during COVID that my husband and I basically sat down and did months of research, where those evenings where you couldn't do anything anyway. But yeah, we did months and months of research and came up with the kind of conclusion that for us, surrogacy in the US was our top choice. And yeah, we've had a really good experience of that. We were matched via Family Inceptions with an incredible surrogate that we're still in contact with. We feel so lucky. It's, I guess, a bit like dating, where there's the right people, the right person for you in this like whole kind of fertility world. And it's about either finding that person yourself or going through an agency and having them match you like a matchmaker, essentially, to someone that you have the same values, the same expectations of what the surrogacy journey is going to look like, and what, especially what it's going to look like afterwards. So yeah, we had a really positive experience and have an amazing nearly 2-year-old now.
Wow, incredible. And also to be starting that process during COVID must have been doubly hard as well. And
Yeah.
what led you to look into options in the US versus the UK?
So for me, there was a few things that I'm quite an anxious person anyway, and so things that were adding to my anxiety, which were just the laws around um, the surrogate mother in the UK and the intended parents and what kind of rights were. And so for me, it was knowing that we had legal documentation that would protect everybody in that scenario. So both the surrogate mum and the intended parents, that there wasn't going to be down the line actually I want to keep the baby, or actually I want visitation rights. I read about a case today actually about people doing it in the UK, that the surrogate mum wants legal rights and the high court has given that to her. And that just filled me with fear and worry and anxiety that I didn't want. Additionally, I wanted to be on the birth certificate. I wanted to, it's my we're in the lucky position that we were able to use my eggs and my husband's sperm, so it was our embryos, where it's Bertie is fully biologically ours, and I wanted that documented, that he was my son, rather than needing to get an adjusted one. So that was really important for us. And just the fact that it would be not a, we'll sign something non-binding and hope for the best, but that it would have lawyers involved for both us and the surrogate, that it would have independent parties helping, rather than it all being kind of through these Facebook groups that I found actually quite nasty when I went down a bit of a rabbit hole in them during COVID, as you can imagine. So
Absolutely.
it was about the protection for the whole process, but also the protection for my mental health, because it's not like infertility is not easy. And for us, anything we could do, we wanted to do to be able to protect us kind of going through it.
Absolutely. And Eloise, for you, what are the reasons that you see Brits coming over to the US for surrogacy and egg donation?
Sure. I mean, the first thing, kind of back to Charlie's point, is the legal clarity. There's what, 45, a minimum of 45 states in the US where compensated surrogacy is allowed. It is open to anybody. There's no discrimination regardless of your marital status, your sexual orientation, whether you're single, or it's irrelevant. So I think legal clarity is one. Compensated surrogacy obviously is huge, opens up a vast pool of women that are available to become surrogates, like unlike the UK model where you guys only have uncompensated altruistic model. It's very difficult, especially given from somebody who's carried a pregnancy three different families. It's a big ask, and to just be willing to do that out of the kindness of your heart, I mean, it's amazing, and kudos to that person. But that is not always the case. Then of course, there's experienced agencies. I mean, there are some amazing agencies in the US, of course, Family Inceptions being the best, but there are amazing agencies who provide full support across the US that can help from, finding your fertility clinic all the way to helping to bring the baby home. It's LGBTQ friendly options, again, across so many states. Again, it really doesn't matter. And then, of course, there's a proven track record. I mean, we've been doing this for years and years and years, and people from all over the globe come to the US to do surrogacy because there is much more opportunity here than anywhere else in the world.
And obviously, with things going on in the world, there are certain countries that people may have gone to, which people wouldn't necessarily go to at the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in
I think that
terms,
just
sorry,
just
Charlie,
to
go
mention,
for it.
For us, another thing, we were doing it all during COVID, and we, that was a safety that ultimately we are going to be able to get into this country. We're not going, the US, UK, everybody's kind of very helpful. We can talk, we can communicate. There's no language barrier.
Yeah.
There's that although we had our visa to do our IVF denied in the US, there was never going to be a point where we wouldn't be allowed to go in to collect our child somehow. Like, we ended up going to Canada for 2 weeks to essentially quarantine to be allowed in when we went to meet our surrogate. But that was a really big factor for me. And I know that with kind of the worldwide volatility, the fact that it's with a country that has such connections with the UK really gave me that kind of the safety net of doing it abroad in general.
And of course, too, the issue with what happened during COVID, obviously, is that doesn't exist anymore. So that impact of having to quarantine or having to be able to jump through all of these hurdles, those, thank the Lord, those days are gone. But those are definitely things that just to even be able to come into the country, be knowing that you can get your child, and we're not at a war. We're not, battling different government entities because they all of a sudden, yesterday it was fine to do surrogacy and today it's not, and now you can't bring your child out of the country. That doesn't exist here.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that is a lot of reassurance in itself, isn't it? And I went to the States to have IVF with via sperm donor conception. My husband's infertile, and that security was something we looked for, and also it opened up a pool of more donors for us than the UK. So I hear you. And then in terms of the process, Eloise, could you talk us a little bit through what people can expect, the role that you play at Family Inceptions in supporting parents who are coming from abroad? And then I guess from you, Charlie, it would be good to hear your perspective, having done it, because obviously people might think, oh, well, how much time would I be needing to spend away from home? Does it end up being very costly traveling? Like, it would be good to understand a bit more about how you can make it work.
So I like to so my whole thing about surrogacy, and I think Charlie can attest to this, is before somebody starts the process, you need to be educated. Don't just get into something because, yes, okay, like Charlie, she always knew that she was going to need help. But just because you knew that you're going to need help still doesn't negate the fact that you need to be educated on this process, because it's very daunting. It's very overwhelming, and you are literally handing somebody your child and say, grow my child for me, and then give him or her back to me in 9 months. And you have to completely trust this stranger for however long this process takes. So our first thing is, let us educate you. And we like to break down the phases of surrogacy. So surrogacy to me is kind of broken up into 8 phases. First, you do that initial education, understanding the process, learning all of the things. And then it's kind of the preconception. You have to create embryos. Now, whether you use your genetic material, whether you use donor egg, donor sperm, a combination, it doesn't really matter. You can use either, or you can use the no genetics at all, which then, of course, there's going to be legalities of that too, and that's definitely something that we'll be talking about at the conference. But of course, there's the preconception phase, and then of course there's the phase of, okay, understanding the financing, because it is very expensive to do surrogacy. It is not for the faint of heart. I mean, even from 2020 to now, the cost has gone up, and you're easily looking at about $150,000 to $200,000 to do surrogacy now, realistically, in the U.S. Once you have like kind of your financing, then you start working with your agency, and for us, we'll start working with you. We pre-vet all of our surrogates, we pre-screen them, we make sure that they are truly qualified to become surrogates, and then we match you based upon your criteria and her criteria, and make sure that everybody is on the same page and you have the same values, you're looking for the same thing, you want the same type of journey. Once you have completed your matching process, then you go into kind of what we consider the conception phase, where you're doing all of the medical screening, the preparation for the embryo transfer, and then doing all of your legal contracts. To Charlie's point, everybody has their own attorney. The surrogate has her attorney, the parents have their attorney, and each party has their own representation that is going to be, answering questions for you and helping you to make sure that you're comfortable with what's in that contract. And then once you have that conception phase, hopefully it ends up into a pregnancy. You go through that pregnancy, and during the pregnancy is when you actually start the parentage order. So you're not waiting until baby is born and then to try to figure out who the parents are.
Yeah.
Parentage order already happens. Then comes through delivery, and then from delivery, then you're on your way home. And unfortunately, if you're in the UK, it's not just as simple as you go home and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a much longer process once you do go home, to be able to complete, then to make sure that, okay, this is truly my child, and legally I can stand up for my child for whatever is needed for my
Mm-hmm.
child. So I'm sure Charlie can attest to all of that process.
Yeah.
I think, sorry, Charlie, go for it.
I was just going to say, yeah, it does take a while, but actually, it's not, because you've done all the legal stuff, you've got everything from the US. So the process wasn't too um, hands on, kind of overwhelming. It was more a case of just you having to have a social worker come around and be like, yes, you're being a good parent. I mean, I got
Yeah.
asked, like, do I take him to swimming lessons? And I was like, are you asking every parent
Oh,
this? So that was annoying. But
wow.
yeah, but the process and the actual day in court was actually quite nice.
Yeah.
And we were with 3 other families. So actually, I wouldn't be put off by that sort of things. It's annoying. I would say that was my most overwhelming feeling, was being like annoyed that I had to do this when other people who create their families in different ways don't have to do that. Given that I felt like we'd already done it
Yeah.
all in the US, but anyway, I wouldn't.
100%.
That is one of the least. You've already got your baby. You're so happy. Like, that is one of the least kind of the smallest hurdles to get
Yeah.
over.
Absolutely. I think also it's interesting, Eloise, what you said about being educated and making is sort of advocating for yourself and learning as
Yes.
much as you can before you step into this process. As such, with you putting on this amazing event next month. Um, it's interesting that Charlie, you said one of the sort of preconceptions you had before entering this was a concern that the surrogate would want to keep your baby. And I've heard that from people before. But Eloise, wouldn't you say that's normally a very, very uncommon thing that would
Yeah.
happen? And obviously, using a third party egg donor or your own eggs takes away that any kind of risk that there might be of that kind of concern.
Well, and you also have to think of it this way as well. These women that are choosing to become surrogates have already had their children.
Mm-hmm.
Why in the world would they put themselves in a legal battle to keep yours when they can have their own? So a lot of it is just out of fear,
Mm-hmm.
the unknown. And again, it really truly has to be about being educated. The majority of these women that are coming into and choosing to become surrogates are doing it because they really truly want to make help a family. They want to have an impact. They want to make a change in somebody's life. They want to be able to do this for somebody. Yes, is there a benefit to them of being compensated? Of course, but I can promise you, having carried twins the first time, a boy the second time, and a girl the third time, you're 9 months pregnant with morning sickness and delivery. There is no amount of money
Mm-hmm.
that is out there in the world that really is going to be enough for you to go through and endure all the things that you will need to endure for else's behalf.
Sorry,
Oh,
it paused.
look
I'm
like we
back.
got frozen.
There we go. Yes, exactly. Absolutely. I have heard that before, so it's really good to clarify that. And I guess Charlie, in terms of how you worked with Eloise and the team at Family Inceptions, what was the experience like, and how did they help make it a smooth transition and journey doing so in the US?
Yes. So we had kind of regular calls. We filled in a big questionnaire. We had conversations. We made a video that is now so cringe, but like it was 2020 and it was about like the TikTok trend was really cool. So and yeah, my husband and I have a video of us like clicking into different outfits and like talking about ourselves, and thinking about it makes me feel horrified that that went to anybody. But luckily, yeah, we they matched us with someone that has really similar interests. But the most important things were that for us were that they wanted to continue a relationship in some form post surrogacy. So they matched us with someone amazing. We asked for it to be ideally East Coast, or if not, then a big sort of hub,
Yeah,
easy to kind of get to. I am very lucky that we get cheap flights. My husband's a pilot, so I was able to go to quite a lot of the. I went to the embryo transfer to the 8 week scan, to the 12 week and the 20 week. We don't have to, but it helped me connect and also kind of become friendly and closer with our surrogate and her husband, so that we weren't then like, hey, on kind of birth, day that she went into labor. But yeah, they just kind of made it seamless in terms of they helped us find lawyers, they helped us find we talked to them about our choice of fertility clinic. They helped with visa passport issues that were a bit of a nightmare coming home.
I bet.
And also we were lucky that our coordinator lived locally, so we actually went out for lunch with her. She's helping us with our second journey, and yeah, just it meant that there was someone to ask the questions rather than me having to dig around and find out or worry about, have we filled this form out correctly, are we doing the process in the right steps, have we thought of everything, like down to our coordinator registered Bertie at her children's doctor, pediatrician, so that we could get our jabs before we went home.
Ah,
Like just kind of everything was, nothing was too much, and everything was just kind of holding our hands or doing things for us to make the process really streamlined.
mhm. If anyone has any questions whilst we're chatting about egg donation surrogacy in the US, please feel free to ask. That's why we have Eloise here today. Anything that you want to add on that, Eloise, in terms of process and how you support each person that you work with to, have their goal of having their baby?
I mean, what everybody needs to understand is surrogacy is as unique to you as you are unique as an individual.
Hmm.
There are no two journeys alike. There are not going to be two pregnancies alike. There's not going to be two surrogates alike. So it really is where your expectations of thinking that you're going to come in and it's going to be exactly like Charlie's or exactly like somebody else's is probably not going to be realistic. What you need to kind of start thinking through is, what would you like it for it to be for you? And then that is where, our team, we help guide you, is like, well, does that really make sense? And why do you want to, why are you thinking that way? Have you thought of this, or have you thought of that? Or, it really is our job to guide the intended parents to make sure that they understand what it is they're getting themselves into, and to make sure that they ask the questions they didn't even know to ask.
Absolutely. No, they're really, really good points. What about challenges? Are there any challenges? Charlie, were there any challenges for you besides what you've mentioned in terms of certificate, etc., and coming home, or when you were home? Anything or legalities that you had to get involved in, or did Family Inceptions help take care of that?
Family Inceptions and our lawyers did all the kind of legal work. We had a Zoom court in the US, which they kind of again walked us through to get our parental order. I mean, the main challenges are just the paperwork and the kind of waiting for a US passport, which is what you have to do to get home to the UK. You can't get a UK passport out there, so that was the main kind of, you have to wait and ours took a bit longer because of where we did it in South Carolina. Was we couldn't get the pre-birth order, or we couldn't get pre-birth order. So our friends that did it in California had a much quicker turnaround because they had already done all of that. We had to wait for court. So the main, I would say, for me, the main things were emotional, and the waiting to match with someone, and the expectations that you put in your mind of like, oh, it's going to be by this day, or we're going to have a baby by then. And the timeline, it's longer than you expect it to be. And so that was the main challenge, was reining me in and getting my husband having to be like, let's just enjoy this time, let's go on a holiday, let's try not to sit down and think by this time we'll have this baby, and just let the process kind of roll out, and trust the people that are in your corner, that they're doing everything that they
Yeah.
can to find the right person for you, and to schedule the medical screenings and all that jazz, rather than feeling kind of out of the loop.
Which everyone has to face, don't they, during a fertility struggle or challenge or help needed, whether it's with your own eggs or your own sperm, carrying a baby yourself. There's so many unknowns and so many hurdles to overcome, and things that you can set you back. And then, every day you just have to take it as it comes. So does your son have a British passport and a US passport?
Yes, he does. Yeah. So you get home, as if you're born there in the US, you get a US passport, and that's what we came home with. And then got some funny looks when we got home. But then it was really easy getting a British passport. The annoying, I would say, the annoying paperwork is getting him registered for the 20% discount on the child's care. Having to do all that was a bit
Government
more
thing. Yeah.
frustrating, but getting him a UK passport was easy.
Great. Well, what a nice option for him to have in the future, to have both
Yeah,
passports.
exactly.
Um, and are you happy with how your relationship is with your surrogate now?
I just wish we could see her more. We went over to visit her, her and her family, in February this year. We're planning on going again at some point in the next year, doing another surrogacy journey, fingers crossed, with her. So
So
yeah.
exciting. I have everything crossed for you. You're obviously in
Thank you.
great hands. And then, Eloise, I want to ask you, because we see a lot of press over here around huge legalities that have been going on, especially in the States, with fertility over the last, let's say, year or so more. For surrogacy, are there any particularly friendly surrogacy states? And what are the key things for UK intended parents to bear in mind?
So there are a lot. I mean, I know, unfortunately, the media only likes to put always the negative side of things, but there is well over 45, 46 states that are completely surrogacy friendly without any issues. There are nuances to each state, of course. That is our job, as well as the attorney's job, to make sure that we are matching you with the surrogate. In a state where you're not going to have any problems in getting your child home. So that is our responsibility to make sure that that occurs. And as far as when somebody comes, it's really to make sure that they are working with knowledgeable professionals that understand the process for the UK citizens, what they need to do, how they need to be able to get home, what is the requirements that they have. And then you need to start thinking again, like I said before, of what it is that you want for your journey. Are you financially able to take on this responsibility? Again, the legalities of when you get home, and making sure that you understand what that process is. It's not just you get your baby home and you're done. There's a steps that you have to do in order to make sure that you can register your child in school, and those type of things. I actually read an article the other day of a family that I believe they did surrogacy, and the child needed medical care, and they were fighting to hurry up and get their name registered so that they can get their child medical care. So it's things like that that you really want to make sure that you are, just doing your due diligence way ahead of time. And that we come in to make sure that we're guiding you along that path throughout the entire step.
Fantastic. Question: how prepared, Charlie, did you feel going into your hospital birth experience? Did you know what to expect, and did you feel empowered to speak up in the US healthcare or to the US healthcare system? And how about the newborn care prep?
Yeah, so I found it. I'd read and I'd heard kind of horror stories of intended parents, specifically mothers, in the kind of more NHS system, of them not being allowed in the rooms. The way that the US, or the way that our kind of delivery, or the OB, basically, we'd met her, we'd done scans with her, I knew her. So when we went in, it was actually a scheduled C-section. Um, we'd met. She knew that I was the mother. I cut the birth, like the umbilical cord. I felt like I was the one. They've said that he had to go to the NICU, and it was me that they were talking to about Bertie. My husband is incredibly squeamish, so he was not anywhere near any of this. And I had to be like, maybe we should let him know what's going on as well. But no, I felt, and at no point did anyone make me feel in the hospital anything other than Bertie's mum. And that was so important for me in the NICU, in the delivery room, at all points during our kind of interactions with healthcare professionals. They were more interested. They were like, oh, we've had surrogates before, but never international. And he was in the NICU for kind of just under 3 days, so turn a bit days. And so we got to know the staff there. They made him a little plaque. It was a really nice experience. I would say, though, that I have worked in ICUs, and so I was very
Mm.
unfazed by going to the NICU, and my husband took his lead from me. He was like, oh, you didn't look worried, so I wasn't worried. So I don't know whether that helped. I'm quite vocal. I'm quite an advocate for myself, for my family, so I would felt kind of confident to do that. So I don't know whether that was kind of a combination of their treatment of us and also my own kind of experience in medical care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I wanted to ask whether you've got any advice for anyone who is looking into surrogacy, perhaps egg donation as well, in the US, and what your sort of tips would be.
Um, so just research, speak to people that have done it. I'm going to be talking at the event on the 12th of October, so I'm going to be there, and I'm happy to answer any questions about how we researched, how we found and chose family inceptions. There's going to be lawyers there. There's going to be fertility, like people who've been through this, people like Eloise who've been surrogates that will, I'm sure, happy to answer those kind of questions. But research and just talk about it, because I think I was so nervous. We didn't tell anybody for so long that we were even going through this, because I was embarrassed. And as soon as you start talking about it, you realize that other people have been through this process. We helped one of our friends that were going through multiple miscarriages. Once they kind of heard our story, they've had a baby via surrogate through family inceptions, because they were willing to be open. We were willing to be open. So just
Yeah,
talk to people,
amazing.
and try to enjoy it. I know that sounds really odd, but so many people are coming to surrogacy either as having been through some heartbreak of their own infertility journey, or they've dealt with years of knowing that this is going to be their experience. It actually can be really enjoyable. Like, we loved Charleston, which is where we did our we had our son. We have a really good connection with our surrogates. We had a really nice time out there, and those 6 weeks that we were there are so
I'm
special to both
sure.
my husband and I, and also just kind of cementing that bond with our surrogate and her husband, and then getting to see Bertie, and then we took him back. And so I think it can be a good experience. It can be a great experience. It can be one that you'll really cherish. I know that often people don't come to it. They come to it as a last resort because they haven't
Yeah,
been able to carry their own
yeah.
child, but it can be a really lovely experience for
Mm-hmm.
everybody.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I enjoyed my time in New York, almost like taking a step away from work and being able to just think about, what was happening, and spend some time with my husband away from everything was just almost like if I had been caught up in my moment at home, doing it at home, it would have just been so much more stressful, I think, than being able to have that time. And in terms of talking to your son about it, is that something that you're already starting to do or going to start doing?
Yeah, so we were given some books. We are making sure that we tell him, we show him photos of our surrogate. We've got little videos from when we were together. We went to the aquarium, and there's like cute photos of them. And again, we're in a really fortunate position that we get cheap flights, and so our plan is to try and make Charleston be really special to our family and go back and get to spend time and him understand the kind of the story and the why that place is so special, why our surrogate is so special. And I mean, literally, she sent a box for his first birthday, a box of like 20 presents, all with little notes
Oh,
on.
that's so
I sent her,
special.
yeah, I send her photos and videos. She follows me on Instagram. Yeah, it's we're really lucky, and we feel so. I feel like blessed, overworked, like it's overused in this kind of environment, but we feel so lucky that we were matched with her. We've been out for loads of meals. We share Harry Potter chat. Yeah, just I think that for Bertie, knowing that we feel lucky that we got to get him via
Yeah.
surrogacy rather than it be something that we ever play down or ever
Hmm.
make him feel like that's different. Yeah, it's different, but it's how special, how cool, how amazing that's how he came into the world.
That's what we're doing with donor conception as well. It's always going to be a narrative it has been from the beginning of each of their lives, rather than a sort of sit down and we've got something to tell you
Yeah,
kind of scenario. That's amazing. And so are you able to use the same surrogate for your second journey?
we're in the process, so we're hoping so. Yeah,
Fantastic. That's amazing. And what
yeah,
great support you've got with Eloise and the team at Family
yeah.
Inceptions, which leads me on to ask you, Eloise, all about the event on the 12th of October, the Family Blueprint Symposium in London. Could you tell us all about it?
Sure. So, October 12th at the West End, London, we are putting together an educational symposium that will literally talk about the entire process of surrogacy and egg donation in the US. So, from starting of that education, understanding
Mhm.
through the preconception, whether you're creating your embryos in the UK and then shipping it to the US, or whether you're actually coming to the US, and then literally walking through the entire process. We have a number of experts that are going to be speaking on different aspects, whether it's the medical aspect and having a doctor come in and share about the the embryo creation in the US, or what the process is like for the surrogates, insurance, which unfortunately, even in the US, we don't understand our own insurance. But there will be
I
somebody from
definitely don't.
insurance. There's going to be attorneys from both sides
Yeah.
that are going to be speaking. So there's going to be attorneys from the US, there's going to be attorneys from the UK, there's going to be someone speaking about the process for the passports and the escrow and how all of that works. And again, Charlie is going to be sharing her experience, and I'm going to be really be talking and laying out the whole process of that roadmap of what it's going to look like, and being able to then interact with these professionals and ask them specific questions as well that pertains to your specific
Mhm.
information.
Absolutely. And also having the opportunity to speak to experts, but also to people such as Charlie who have been through it yourselves. And also, Eloise, you having been a surrogate, you've got the best of both worlds, haven't you? To be able
Yes.
to
Yeah.
tie everything together and get the whole insight into what it might be like to go through surrogacy or egg donation in the US.
Yeah. I
And
think it's like a real fact finding day. We spent hours and hours and hours on Zoom calls. Basically sometimes like multiple a night trying to speak to different lawyers and speak. It's a
wow.
really good way of getting all of the information, so then you can go away, do some of your own more research in kind of the direction, rather than spending hours kind of feeling around in the dark, getting a good first step. Or if you're already on the kind of road to knowing you want to do a US surrogacy, I think it's just puts everybody in one
Mhm.
room rather than you having to do the initial research to find out who do I even speak to about this. We ended up, yeah, hours and hours with loads of different people, including a family that had done it after I was basically bullied on one of the Facebook groups asking about US
I
surrogacy.
bet.
She reached out privately being like, people don't like talking about that, so here's my, you know, my mobile number, do you want to chat? So it's just taking out a lot of the groundwork for you, and you can ask, no question is stupid. I had probably thousands when I first spoke to Eloise, and it just puts people in the room. It's so much easier, isn't it, when people are there and you can speak face to face rather than having to join a Zoom in your
Absolutely. And not be
kitchen.
judged.
Yes.
Like you said, not have backlash for something which, is a situation that you are forced into that you may not have, dreamt about growing up.
Yeah.
So you want support, and so this is the best way to get it. I think it's an amazing opportunity. People should click our link in bio to find out more about the event. Anything else to add, Eloise, that you think is important for people to know before doing a bit more research, finding out about this event, and booking tickets?
I think one thing that I wanted to touch on that Charlie had mentioned about, didn't want to share because of the
Hmm.
embarrassment. And the thing about it is, there is nothing to be embarrassed about. If you had a medical condition, you wouldn't be embarrassed to go get treatment. This is for a lot of people a medical condition, and they want to be able to have an opportunity to have a child. It should not be taboo. It should not be something that anybody should be embarrassed about. It shouldn't be something that anybody should hide. It's a beautiful thing. And when somebody is willing to raise their hand and say, I'm willing to do this for you, again, it could be the most amazing experience for everybody. It is all about what you also make of it. So I really do feel that. Um, Unfortunately, the media sometimes portrays surrogacy as this dirty thing when in actuality, it's the complete opposite. For, the handful of times that they talk about surrogacy and someone did this or somebody did that, there's thousands more that went perfectly fine that nobody wants to talk about.
Hmm.
So, it's unfortunate that those are the stories that they want to pick up on, but hopefully with the symposium, people coming, truly getting educated on the process, and then learning just the things that they didn't even may have even thought about, is definitely going to be our goal. The conference is again October 12th at the West End London, and of course I would forget the time, but it is on our website, so the link is in the bio.
Great.
Um, and it is free to attend. You just have to register, and and hopefully we'll see everybody there. It is limited as well, though,
Yep.
too. So it definitely is. Registration will be closing soon because again, we can only take so many people. Just to also be able to give everybody access to the professionals and be
Hmm.
able to receive the information that they came for.
Well, it's a phenomenal opportunity, and anyone interested, please go to our link in bio, or you can follow and go through to Family Inceptions website. But we have linked it up in our bio so that you can read more. And as Eloise said, save a spot, save a free spot before they all get taken. So I wish I had had something like this when I was going abroad to the States for
Yeah.
donor conception. Like you, Charlie,
Me
I was
too, yeah.
scrabbling around trying to work it all out myself. So to be given this opportunity is phenomenal, and yeah, it's great that these conversations becoming normalized, and to hear your story today, Charlie.
Well, thanks for letting me come and chat. I feel like I've changed a lot in the last 4 years from not talking about it to basically shouting about it because I want people to know that it's an
Yeah,
amazing way to
fair.
create a family and it can be a really positive
Have,
experience.
Sure.
have you met any? Have you met lots of other people with MRKH throughout this journey?
Only kind of online. I have to say, I haven't been to any of the kind of events. I know that there are plenty, and it's something that I again need to probably build up the courage to go and do because I feel like I would have loved to have spoken to someone like me when I was 16, 17, 18 that has a really positive outcome rather than just kind of burying my head in the sand, which is what I did then. But we have met some other families who've had babies via surrogate, and we're very lucky that a very close friend has also done it. So I also think that would really help Bertie growing up with our friend's son, knowing somebody else that has, was kind of arrived in the exact same way will be quite a nice kind of
Absolutely.
somebody that's just like him.
And I think also one more thing to add, but obviously there'll be so many people watching this and joining who have experienced a difficult road to date, whether that's same-sex couple or infertility issues or recurrent loss, things like that. And so, as you said, it's almost, I guess, taking that leap and taking that step to educate and find out more, to turn something that's been a really difficult journey to date into something that is potentially exciting to start, because it's getting you to where you want to be ultimately.
Yeah, and I think even if you haven't 100% decided that this is the journey for you, come
Yeah,
along, use the
absolutely.
day as I said, fact finding. If you are even considering, or you've watched today and thought actually that might be a good option for us, just come along and find out, chat with us. Also, my DMs are always open. I'm always happy to chat about our experience, and I'm sure Eloise is the same with kind of family inceptions. They always available to answer my WhatsApps.
Fantastic. Amazing. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. I'm sure everyone's found it hugely useful. And please do take advantage of these limited seats, free seats. Click our link in bio to find out more and sign up as soon as you can, as the date is fast approaching. But yeah, we look forward to hearing more. And thank you once again, everyone.
Bye. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.